Dieter, you have been working in the telecommunications industry for many years. Can you briefly tell us how it all began for you?
Hi everyone, and thanks to Luke for this interview about my journey in CFCA and the fight against telecommunications fraud. I began my training at Deutsche Bundespost in 1977 in the telecommunication branch in Eschborn. This is very close to Frankfurt and near to my hometown. And in 1980, I began studying electrical engineering with a special focus on telecommunication engineering, and I joined Deutsche Telekom in 1984 again.
When did you start working specifically on telecommunications fraud?
In 1989, I took over the security department at the telecommunication branch in Eschborn. And in this time, we had a lot to do with lawful interception, and also was my department responsible for the misuse of telecommunication services. We dealt in this time with cases on C5 hacking, PBX hacking, payphone fraud, subscription fraud, clip-on fraud, and so on.
When and how did your involvement with CFCA begin?
In 1999, I changed my responsibilities and went to the headquarters to Bonn and took over the telecommunication fraud investigation division and came into contact with CFCA and got involved there.
How did CFCA assist you or influence your fraud fighting activities in Germany?
For me, CFCA was a blueprint for setting up a similar organization in Germany. I succeeded in founding the Deutsches Fraud Forum 25 years ago.
A great initiative, Dieter. I hope it still is placed today. You were one of the few international representatives at CFCA. How did this help you personally and as an organization around fraud management in telecommunications?
To work closely with influential people like Weiling Duncan, Clemmy Scott, John Frost, Colin Yates, and others.
Collaboration and education have always been an important part of the CFCA ethos. How do you think these factors have contributed to the success of the CFCA?
For me, collaboration and the opportunity for education has been one of the biggest success factors of CFCA. Telecom industry specialists from the US and other countries openly discussed fraud scenarios and worked on methods to combat them. I often gained insights during presentations on new technologies and subsequent discussions on how to counter these new modi operandi. Having the opportunity to learn from experts at CFCA was a highlight for me in this time. It was also very impressive by how to respectful the interaction in CFCA was. These three characteristics of training, cooperation, and respect are still important components of the CFCA DNA today.
Thanks, Dieter. I agree. Respect is also a fundamental aspect to CFCA success. Did your involvement in CFCA assist you and your colleagues in the fight against telecom fraud in Germany?
Personally, I always enjoyed working at CFCA. As one of my few international colleagues, I was always had I always had an advantage because I had more contacts and I could turn to them with questions. And I always have positive memories of the annual fraud study. that the membership had a positive impact for us in the fraud department.
You were inducted into the CFCA Hall of Fame in 2023. What does that mean to you personally?
It's a great honor for me to be mentioned alongside all my estimated colleagues at the CFCA. It was always given me a great pleasure to have been involved in this fight against telecommunication fraud.
Congratulations, Dieter. Well-deserved recognition. Fraud has been a big part of your long professional life. How has that evolved to where you are today?
Cybercrime. Today I fight against cyber attacks such as ransomware from the perspective of a crisis manager and can only recommend that every affected company consult an experienced cyber expert and the relevant authorities to minimize the damage to the affected company.
I agree, cybercrime will be a threat for many years to come and is only increasing in the risk and fraud landscape. This threatens critical and national infrastructure, businesses and individuals. This could be a topic for an interview in its own right. If I had to ask you for one great memory of your involvement with the CFCA, what would it be?
I'm very often asked about fond memories of CFCA. For me personally, there were two events that Telekom and I organized for CFCA in Germany. The first conference took place in Ismaning, close to Munich. Insiders will certainly remember the visit of the famous Munich Hofbräuhaus brewery and will probably never forget the saying "Ons zur Xufa." It means to drink beer very fast. The second event took place in 2006 in the historic city of Heidelberg. At these events, participants from other telecommunication competitors and other network operators were introduced into the successful work of CFCA. The focus was expanding the network against telecommunications fraud.
What advice would you give new CFCA members based on your own experience with the CFCA?
In my opinion, you always must be open to new developments and remain curious to identify new fraud scenarios as early as possible. For this reason, it's particularly important now to observe and analyze the advantage and disadvantage of AI to detect new fraud vectors but also AI will give us the possibility to develop defense mechanisms.
What did the CFCA mean to you when you were heavily involved in its activities?
Working directly with colleagues from CFCA was a very positive experience for me. The exchange was very open and appreciative. We discussed topics together and ultimately agreed on the common direction.
That reflects the same experiences today with many of our members. Interaction and exchanging of information. What does the CFCA mean to you today?
I always follow CFCA on LinkedIn and have noticed many positive changes. But seeing my CFCA colleagues in Prague again was a very, very special event for me. I didn't feel like more than 12 years had passed between my last CFCA conference in San Francisco and today. I felt very comfortable among my CFCA colleagues.
And finally, as we wrap up this interview, what are your thoughts on the current and next threats for telecommunications service providers?
I think we will have to deal much more with the risk of AI in telecommunications industry. I see major risk in identity theft, fake identities, as well as fake messages from operators that are compiled from data from the darknet and can pursue various goals, but ultimately the fraudsters want our customers' money, which damage the operator's reputation.
Dieter, thank you for your time and your insights and thoughts, and of course your contribution to CFCA.
Thanks to Luke for this interview.
Dieter was awarded a CFCA Lifetime Achievement Award in 2025 at CFCA's Summer International event in Prague, Czech Republic. I and the CFCA board and its members thank Dieter for his time to undertake this interview.